Hello everyone. To uh, those who I haven't introduced myself before, my name is Salah Essa, and I am a Chevening alumni and a former Chevening Scholar from 2020 and 2021 cohort. I hold a master's degree in linguistics with specialization on social linguistics from Queen Mary University of London. Thank you everyone for joining us. And this meeting is really is informal meeting that we are uh, conducting in order to listen to your questions and answer them in the best way that we can. And hopefully this session will help you um, go forth with your interview easily and answer your questions that you have been preparing in the past few times. So congratulations again for being shortlisted to the interview stage. This is a real and a huge achievement, and on the hope that you are going to be going to be final selected and awarded with the Chevening Scholarship, and that you are going to travel to London or whatever places inside the UK where your universities are. So congratulations again, and thank you so much for joining today. We are looking forward to welcoming more of participants for this meeting, but let's not waste any time. So let's begin with the first question. Please raise your hand, and let's begin with the question. So, and I will be taking questions beginning from those that are showing on my left side of the laptop. So the first question comes from Rehan. Please, Rehan, go ahead and turn on your mic and ask your question.
Yeah. Hello, first of all, but just I want to ask if that if we up to now we haven't accepted from the university, and I mean specifically TOEFL or IELTS exam. If that affects or raise our chances to get the scholarships if we get this acceptance before the interview or not. I need just reality about that.
So I wasn't sure that I understood your question because of the voice, but correct me if I'm wrong. You mean that if you weren't able uh, to pass the IELTS or TOEFL exam and obtain the conditional or unconditional offer from university before interview, do you ask whether this affects or impacts your application or not? Is that what your question?
Yeah, I mean unconditional offer. Is that raises our chances before the war if we get it or not?
So the answer to this question is no. It doesn't affect the outcome of your interview. Going to the interview with or without an offer, whether conditional or unconditional, has nothing to do with you are being accepted or not. So don't worry about that. I myself was accepted, was awarded the Chevening Scholarship, and later my offer from Queen Mary University of London was from conditional to unconditional, and the very last few days because of issues related to COVID-19, I wasn't able to take the exam again.
You mean you got the scholarship before, when you came to the interview, you haven't unconditional offer, and you get a scholarship after that?
Yes, totally correct. I received my scholarship, and when I went to the interview, I was only with a conditional offer, and that's totally fine. You need not having an offer.
Mm.
Have an offer or not, it doesn't affect the outcome of your interview. Thank you for your
Yeah.
question. Let's go to Arti Pandey, who is showing that she's raising her hand on my screen. Please, Arti, go ahead.
Hi everyone. Thank you for this session. And my question is that actually I'm from a technical background. So will the questions be a little bit or like somewhat technical, or like it would be general questions related to the essays?
Pardon? I couldn't hear you clearly. Could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I'm from a technical background. I wanted to ask if the questions raised by the panel would be somewhat technical.
The questions that you are going to see from the panelists
Hmm.
in an interview uh, will
Yeah.
will majorly relate to your essays. But before that, they will ask you, tell me about yourself. And of course, this is a 2 minute question. You will only use 2 minutes to answer your question. So about tell me about yourself. So you are going to say your name, your background of academic background, your work experience, where you come from, what are your aspirations or goal in a brief way. So this is question number one, and then they will ask you about your essay, the major four questions about your four essays, and you may expect a number of follow-up questions related to your essays, and they will ask you what are you planning to do in the UK, etc. Except your studies, they are going to ask you again what's the challenges you face or you think you might face in the UK, things related to whether it's
تبقى فاعل مقابلة.
Rar, uh, would you please let me finish, and I will be taking questions one by one. Thank you. Yeah, so again, and they will ask you why do you think that Chevening should choose you? They will ask you questions related to your aspirations, your career, and they will ask you even one or two questions about post Chevening level, stage, or period. So what are you going to do, or what are you going to do after Chevening? So this question is majorly related to your career plans actually. So those are the nature of the questions you might take. And the interview should be sometime between 20 to 30 or 35 minutes, no longer, no less. That these are the questions that I want to ask. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Um, any other questions, please? If anyone has a question, I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I will be asking from the way I can see on my screen. Carol, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have a question? We can answer.
Hello, thank you so much for this session. Actually, I didn't start to prepare for the interview yet because I feel lost. I don't know where to start. So if you can give us some examples to how to start to prepare, that would be great for me. Thank you again.
Thank you, Carol, for your question and for attending this meeting. Of course, some applicants feel lost at some point of the application, and this is a really normal thing. What I advise you to do is that start reading your essays again and start finding some questions, some Chevening interview related questions you can find on internet, and I will share some of them here. I will share links and files here. Hopefully, those questions will be able to help you prepare your questions. Also, in my YouTube channel, there are some videos that you can watch, and those videos and in those videos, some applicants asked questions related to the interview, and they had the answers from us. So yeah, so again and again, read your essays more and more, and prepare, ask yourself questions, and try to find them answers. I don't advise that I don't advise you to memorize answers for questions. Just be prepared to know how to answer questions. But memorizing answers will make you feel confused during the interview. Just do not try to memorize. Just ask your questions for yourself and trying on them at home, trying how to answer questions and follow-up questions. If anything unexpected might come during the interview, how to deal with it, and that's it. And by the end of this session or informal meeting, I will be sharing files here. So you may download them and make use of those questions. And those files include questions from the previous applicants and previous interview periods with Chevening. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Seeing Dr. Hopers. If you have any questions, please. Yes, Dora, go ahead. Please turn on your mic and please ask your question. Thank you.
Hi, so Salah, thanks for your time. I was wondering if our English language will affect us. You know, it's hard to answer well under all this stress. So if we make some mistakes during our that affect our
Dora, can you hear me? Yeah, thank you, Dora, for your question. And yes, so my best advice for you is that to practice and practice and practice at home. Practice makes perfect. So this is the rule that you and everyone needs to follow. For example, when I was trying for my Chevening Scholarship interview, I practiced at home for really much time. I was sitting in front of mirror and I was answering the questions that I was finding and answering those questions from my essays. So practice makes perfect, and you need not to be afraid of your English language. Of course, mistakes happen, and that's really fine. They should not affect you unless those mistakes hinder you from delivering your idea in a good way. Otherwise, you are fine, and you should not be afraid. You should not be afraid of your English language. But what I advise you and advise everyone else is that you prepare for the interview and practice at home. As I said, practice makes perfect. That's my advice and my recommendation to you. Thank you so much. I'm seeing a nice Reynoso is lifting their hand. Yes, please, Anais, go ahead.
Hi, I made a question in the chat box, but I decided to ask in this way. Hi, I have been invited to the interview previously, but I didn't got successfully. So I would like to know first, which do you consider is a appropriate time to prepare for the interview? And also, what kind of tips could you give us to actually achieve this phase of the process?
Thank you for your questions, Anais. So how much time do you need to prepare for your interview depends on how much do you know of your essays. The more you know of your essays, the better, and the more you practice, the better. I can't say like 1 week or 2 weeks or even 1 month are enough. I also don't say that there are few. I will say that, for example, I might feel that 1 month is enough for me. You think 1 week is enough for you. The other things like 2 weeks are enough. So practice at the time you feel most comfortable, and whenever you feel that you are prepared well, get some rest, and ask yourself a question. So when asking yourself a question and finding to yourself that you are answer those questions easily and fluently, you will feel that you have mastered this interview question. And as for the tips during the interview stage, you are going to meet people and the panelists, and those people are really, really friendly. They are super nice. And from moment one that you are going to meet those people inside the embassies or consulates, you will feel that they have been your friends. And I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this, but I have been into Chevening interview 3 times, and I have seen that myself. They are super friendly, super nice, in a way that one can never expect, and all the stress that you have will be punished in a minute. So never worry about who are going to interview you. They are really friendly people, and they are going to be so friendly to the maximum. Thank you so much. I'm seeing Aya Chaya. Please go ahead with your
Yes.
question.
Hi, Salah. Thank you, first of all, for your time. Obviously, after the interview, we have 3 categories of applicants: the people who are accepted, the people who are rejected, and the people who are put on a wait list or a reserve list. So, what is the difference? What do you think is the difference between the applicants who get accepted and the applicants who get rejected? Like, what did the accepted applicants do in order to get accepted, aside from like preparing for the interview, obviously, and mastering the question? What do you think is like the one thing that you need in order to be accepted after the interview?
Thank you for your question. So, but before answering your question, I would like to say a note that I would like all of you to work by. Immediately after finishing your interview, don't you think of it. Don't think of the interview. The moment you have been interviewed, that's fine. Just leave it aside. You did your part of the job, and now go to work on your second goal, which is sitting for your IELTS, TOEFL, or whatever English language exam you are taking. If you still think of your interview, you will lose the many ways of how to achieve other goals within the Chevening Scholarship. English language test really needs really preparation, and for that you will need really good time before taking your exam. So that was my advice for you, piece of advice for you. As for your question, so you should think what made the Chevening Scholarship select you among thousands of applicants from your country. So normally, like in every country, the moderate applicants goes from 1,000 to 4,000, with countries that have, for example, 40 million people of population. For example, if there are 4,000 applicants, they will choose around 40 or 50 or 60 people for the interview. So think that why did they choose you for that? Because among the hundreds of applications, because they chose you. They chose you because they think that you are doing really great in your essay and you are goal oriented. So they believe that you are going to make an impact, that you are going to be a leader, that you are going to be a change maker. This is why they selected you to the interview. They want to get to know you. So during the interview, you need to show, and it's your opportunity, of course. It's your opportunity to show yourself, your real self, better than you showed in your essay. So the key to being selected finally in the Chevening Scholarship is to be better in the interview than your essay. How to be better and then during the interview than your essays. Being better in the interview than your essays is by answering the questions in more detail, and stating that you are not having hopes or dreams. State that you are having goals, and more importantly, applicable goals. When you have applicable goals, and that you state that you need the UK or the Chevening Scholarship in particular to support you, they will believe that you are going to make a real impact. State that there are issues that you are going to address and make good outcomes in the end, good results in the end. And these issues and those outcomes cannot happen without the support of the United Kingdom and in particular the Chevening Scholarship. Try to show them more details, as I said previously, about yourself. So this is the key of being selected. Perform better during the interview than in your essay. Thank you so much. The next question, or the next raised hand I'm seeing, is from Vana Hassan. Go ahead, Vana, please.
Yeah, I have a question. Actually, my question is about after receiving the results and you get accepted, how the process starts. I mean, the visa application of the visa and getting the visa. How long does it take actually? And how long is the fastest way to get the visa? I mean, does it exceed more than a month, or just you will get it a few weeks and that's all? Is it clear, my question?
Yes, your question is clear. Thank you so much. Normally the visa to the UK, and the student visa, they call it the student visa, or they call it tier 4 the student visa. It normally takes from 1 month or 3 weeks, unless there are issues with your applications that cause any delays. Otherwise, and if everything is fine, it takes no longer than 1 month, 1 month and a week, 1 month or 3 weeks. That's the time of the visa being issued. And rest assured that I will be conducting another session or another meeting on Zoom for those who have been finally selected in order to help everyone with the visa application process. Thank you so much. And you need not worry about that in the time being, because this distracts you from focusing on the interview. Just get done with your interview and get done with your university application. And after that, when everything goes fine and you are selected, you can start with your visa application. And I will be conducting another session to help you out with the application process. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to turn your mic on and ask your question.
Yes, Salah, I have another question. Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, you.
Thank you so much. So let's say you have sort of a worst case scenario moment where you cannot answer a question. What would be your strategy to A, maybe avoid that, or B, overcome it?
Thank you for your question. So during the interview, it's rarely that they ask you questions you cannot find an answer for that, but it happens. And when it happens, just don't say that I don't have an answer for this question. Try to take like 10 seconds, or from 5 to 15 seconds to think of an answer, and then go ahead and say it. You may want, if you have to gain time, you can ask them to repeat the question in another way, so that with this strategy you can gain more time. But you need to think fast for that. But whatever happens, don't say that I have no answer for this question. You will need like 5 to 10 seconds to think of an answer, and you can tell it. your answer during the interview. Thank you so much. Dora, go ahead again and ask your question.
Yes, thanks again. Sir, I was wondering, during the interview, the panelist is gonna to ask us about the networking and about the leaderships. And of course, they want us to share an experience from our life. It's a good idea to share new examples that are different from the one that we wrote in our essays, or it's better to to catch our examples in our essays and uh, answer it in different ways. This is my question.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions. The point, you were saying that whether you prefer to stick your answers and examples inside your essay or mentioning external example. I would like to say that you can either mention an example from your essay or a state example only if you feel that example has more impact or is better than the one you stated inside your essay. I would say that go with an example from your essay and then follow it up with another example externally. But make sure that when you talk about an example, make sure that it is first more relevant to the interview topic, and it has more impact than those you stated. So if your examples that you wrote in your essays have more impact and are more useful, let's say this in general, stick to them. If you that you have one, state one from your essay and state other one externally, and make sure that the examples you say you mentioned during the interview are recent. So the recent examples, the more recent examples you mention, the better. Thank you so much. I'm seeing a question from my chat box from Dr. Hovis Malanga. I'm sorry if my pronunciation for the name is incorrect. Please correct me. Anyway, the question is, are you allowed to change universities from ones you listed on your essays? You are allowed to change question. You are allowed to change universities during the interview only in cases that are out of your hand. For example, a university suspends or cancels application to it immediately and without any prior notice. And only when this happens or when they cancel your applications, you can ask the Chevening interview that you would like to change because of an issue that is out of your hand. But if you are if you want to change your universities only because you haven't received offers from those universities, I wouldn't recommend that you change your university because this endangers your application and you might receive a rejection if you say that I want to change my university because I get rejected. Why? The reason is because when you selected your universities, you have this means that you have chosen those universities carefully and after a thorough research. You did your extensive research and saw that those modules and courses at those universities are most useful to you, and based on that you have selected your university. So changing your universities for not getting offers is something unfavorable for the Chevening Scholarship, but sometimes universities close applications for themselves and unexpectedly, which is a matter out of your hand. In that case, you can change that university with another one that you have selected aside of those three, because you have the right to select 3 universities. This is the only time you need to you can change your university during the interview. Thank you so much for your question. Another question from Aya in my chat box. Please stick to asking questions in voice unless your network
Okay, sure.
unless,
Sorry.
unless your is not stable, because this session is recorded. So when the viewers are going to watch it, they will hear the question and they will hear the answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. So my question, I actually have two more questions, if you don't mind. So the first question is that you were speaking about mentioning examples in your interview that are relevant and recent. So what if I had recent experiences in my job or whatever, or volunteering, etc., that are relevant to my applications, but that I haven't mentioned in my essays? Would it be wise for me to mention them during the interview? That's question number one. And question number two, what if I get rejected from one of the universities that I've included in my application? What would be the next step?
Thank you for your two questions, Aya. So my answer to your first question is yes. It's totally fine to state a recent example, an example that you had after submitting your Chevening application. Normally, when people submit their applications, the application window closes in November, and the interview starts in somewhere between March and April. So those 5 months from November to March, 4 months or 5 months, people normally have more example and normally are more relevant. So it's fine to mention those examples on the condition that they are relevant, they are recent, they are really beneficial, and they happened after your application. And when you mention them, just tell them that you have that this example happened at a time after you submitted your application, so that they can know when this example happened and why you think it's better than the one who you wrote in your application. And that's totally fine. As for your question number two, I'm sorry, I forgot it. Could you please repeat it?
Yes, sure. What could you do if you get rejected from all three of your choices? I mean, that is very unlikely to happen, but like, what would be your second step if that does happen?
If you got rejected from all of your chosen universities, just rejected without any of those universities, cancel those applications to all students. If you got rejected, then there is nothing in your hand. You cannot change those universities. There should be an issue that caused you to get rejected from those your chosen 3 universities. You cannot ask Chevening to change those universities for you. That's unfortunate, and it happens sometimes. But if you mean that if you got rejected from one of your 3 universities, then this is fine. You have 2 more universities, and you can work on it. You can work on them, your applications to those universities, to get an offer from the remaining 2. Eventually, you will need only one university to study at. So, for example, some students apply to 3 universities and they get offers from those 3 universities, but in the end, they will get to choose only one university. They will get to choose only one university to study at, and turned down the 2 other offers. So in the end, you will need only one, and that's fine. Thank you so much. I'm seeing some other participants. If you have any questions, please raise your hand or ask question. Oh, Vana Hassan, if you have a question, please go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, my question was about when you they may ask you whether you participated or applied to any other scholarships or not. In that case, it's better to mention that you have applied or not. Does it harm your application if you have applied to any other scholarship? Will it cause any rejections, or it's quite normal for them if you've applied to other international scholarships? Thank you.
Thank you, Vanna, for your question. Actually, when you ask questions, it really reminds me of things that no longer are on my mind. So these are good questions for yourself, for me, and for the ones who are going to view the recording on my YouTube channel. It's totally fine mentioning that you have applied for the Chevening, for the scholarships other than Chevening. It doesn't harm your application or your interview's outcome. They ask this question to see whether you are whether you have been pursuing your goals, whether with Chevening or with scholarships other than Chevening. But the thing is that Chevening is really a distinguished scholarship than others, because other universities only give you money to go study and return home. But with Chevening, it is different. You are going to be introduced and be among a network of around 60,000 Chevening scholars from all over the world. And this is something really useful. There are many pros and advantages with the Chevening scholarships that are not there with other scholarships. But in the end, this question doesn't harm your application. They only want to know whether you are pursuing your goals in other ways or not. Thank you so much. I'm seeing a question in the chat box that I'm going to read it only to be recorded. How did you prioritize the possible interview questions by yourself or doing more interviews in case mock interviews were included? They mean how you found supporting people to do it. Thank you, Anais, for your question. Actually, I did my preparations by myself. In the past times, the support was limited. It was no more than answering questions on Facebook, etc. There were no sessions and there were no mock interviews for me, at least. So I prioritized the questions myself. I applied for the Chevening Scholarship in 2017, 2018, 2019, and in 2020. I got rejected in the first 3 times, and I got it in the 4th times. And every time I was preparing myself, I was Googling, actually. I was YouTubing answers, and I was doing my best to catch answers from here and there. This was my way to do the interview. And YouTube actually is a really good source. Just type Chevening interview and everything. You will find many. I'm not going to say everything, but you will find many things. Thank you so much. And I've seen that you are raising your hand. If you have anything more to add, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for your answer and all the information that you have provided to us. I would like to know, what do you think was the difference with the previous interview that you got rejected and the last one that you actually got the scholarship? What do you think? What's the difference? What do you think that you did different that make you actually got the scholarship?
Okay, thank you for your question. So in 2017, I wasn't qualified to the interview, my first application. And in 2018, I was qualified to the interview, and this answer is for everyone to make use of. I was qualified to the interview. I went to the interview at the British Embassy, and I was interviewed, and I got rejected. In 2018, I was invited to the interview, but I couldn't attend because of some health issues. In 2020, I was interviewed and I got it. the difference between those times, the time that I was interviewed and the time that I was rejected and accepted, is that in the first, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And this is a straightforward and brief answer. When I got rejected, I knew that I messed up in the interview, and because I didn't deliver what I really want to do. Because why I messed up? Because I didn't know what I really want to do during the interview. Yes, my essays were good, and I convinced them that I am someone who is eligible to the interview. But then I didn't showcase myself in a better way. But in 2020, I really knew why I would go to the UK, why I want to study this field, and how am I going to achieve things. I really knew what I want to do. And when I went to the interview, and my 2020 interview was online because of COVID, but during that interview, I really gave detail to every single question, more than they expected, to the point that when the head panelist asked her colleagues whether they have questions for me, they said, we used to have questions, but he answered those questions and gave more detail in advance. So it's imperative to know what you want to do and why you want to do this, because knowing these two questions will shape your answers to their question and eventually will qualify you to be awarded with the Chevening Scholarship. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any question? Please turn on your mic.
Yes, actually, I have another question. It looks very like simple, but I want to imagine that situation. When you get to the interview, I mean, the environment is like you're having an examination, a face-to-face exam, or it's like you're having a friendly conversation with some colleagues. I just want to imagine that that situation, whether it's like an exam, I will be offered pen and paper to write down my answers and then reply them, or it's just like a conversation between me and my friends, for example. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanna, for your question. So it's something in between. It's not that you are going to a strict exam where people are waiting you for specific answers. No, it's an informal conversation. It's something in between. Why something in between? Because you are expected to showcase yourself better. And in the meanwhile, the panelists are so friendly, as I said earlier, so friendly in a way that you feel it's just a conversation between an employer. Think of it like a job interview. You are going to get interviewed by a job employer and has assistants. It's no more different than that. But that one is for a job, and this one is for studies. So as I said, it's something in between. But as for the part where you said whether to prepare your questions on a pen and paper or not, I would say yes, prepare your questions on a pen and paper, but just don't memorize questions. Don't memorize answers, because they might ask the question in more than one way. If you memorize the question and memorize the answer, this will cause you confusion. So, for example, they may say directly, tell us an example of your leadership, and they might ask this question in a different way. They might ask you, tell us on a situation where you had to deal with a challenge and you have succeeded. So this is another way to ask about your leadership qualities. And but the answer is one, is that mentioning an example of your leadership. So by memorizing your answers, you will get confused if you face a different version of the question. But getting to understand their question inside the interview, and preparing for your questions and answers already, but not memorizing them, just get to know those. It will help you much better. But as I said, those panelists are super friendly and they will help you to get the best out of you. They just want to see you because they thought you are the best. This is why they called you. They invited you to the interview. So when you go to the interview, just don't disappoint them. Just prove that you are really good at the interview and you're worth the Chevening Scholarship. Thank you so much. And Adriana asked in the chat box, at the end of the interview, they usually ask if you have any question. What do you think? It is a good idea to ask them? Yes, of course, that's fine. It's just an interview, and of course, during any interview, you have a questions. If you have a question, you can ask your question. If you don't have a question, do not say I don't have a question. Say that thank you for making this opportunity available and inviting me for the interview. So if you have a question, go ask your question and then thank them. If you don't have a question, you can simply say thank you. The interview was thorough, and I got to know everything that I wanted to know from the interview, and I would like to thank you for inviting me for the interview, and that's it. Just don't say no, thank you. Yeah. Is there any other question? I am not seeing anyone raising their hands on my screen, so I will just let you decide. Open your mic and ask your questions.
Yes, Salah, when it comes to time management, because obviously the interview is only 1 hour, am I correct? So how do you manage your time, and how do you, make sure that you don't speak too much, but also you don't speak too little?
I don't I don't know where did you get this information from about the timing or the period of the interview. It's not 1 hour. It goes between at least 20 minutes to 40 or 35 minutes. That's the time for the interview. And managing time is well, the first question is tell us about yourself is a 2-minute answer for that question. The others, managing time for other questions. There are no specific timing for answering any question. Just stop. Let's say in general, stop talking when you feel you have answered their question and you have answered it in detail. If you haven't, so you can talk until you finish, until you feel that you have covered all the sides of your question. Because you need to focus on their question. They might ask one question, but it has more than one side. So you cannot answer one side and leave the others. Just stop talking when you feel that you have answered their question and fulfilled it in detail. Thank you so much. Another question from another participant.
Yeah, actually, I think this is my last question. If I have any supporting documents of my certificates that would support my examples that are written in the essays, is it good to take them with me, or they don't allow anything to be taken into the interview? Is it something good to take these things with me to the interview in order to support myself and my examples? And thank you so much.
Thank you, Bana, for your question. I believe that you may not need to take anything with you to the interview unless you haven't uploaded your supporting documents such as reference letters or educational documents. If you uploaded those documents, the reference letter and your university degree, that's fine. If you haven't uploaded them to your application panel, then you can take them with you. Taking any other document will not be relevant to your interview because they are not going to look at any document during your interview except the reference letters if you haven't uploaded them. So there is no need for you to take any other um, to take any other document with you. Thank you so much. I'm putting in the chat box a link for the most asked questions. Just give me one moment so that I can share them with you. In the meanwhile, if any one of you has any question, please go ahead and ask it.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Can I think there's an issue from Dr. Hovis' side with internet. I'm unable to hear his voice again. So if you can't, if you think that your connection is unstable, please write down your question again, and I will in the chat box, and I will read it and I will answer it. I would just like to clarify that the link I supplied you with in the chat box contains a number of documents. You may find those questions and those documents are repeated. It's fine. You don't have to prepare for every single question and those files because those questions are repeated. It's from Chevening Scholars for the previous year. Just take those that you feel are most relevant to your case and that can make benefit to you and prepare for them. You are allowed to download those files and share them with anyone you think that they might find it beneficial. Thank you so much. Any other one has any question? Okay, so if there are no longer any questions, I will end the session. Sorry, Hala, yes, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Hala, I can hear you.
Right, great. Well, first of all, thank you for this session. It's actually really helpful. And I have a question regarding the way we should speak during the interview. So I've met with my peers, you know, the finalists in my country, and I actually know them because they are among my network. They are people who are very involved in community work. They do a lot of traveling. They've been, you know, they have a lot of experience compared to me. So I want to know if you have any advice for how to differentiate yourself, like how to be better than the other applicants during the interview, even though you do not have as much experience, whether it's work, volunteering, or leadership experience as the rest of them.
Thank you, Hala, for your question. So my first piece of advice is just be authentic, be yourself. This is first, and speak honestly. Do not tell something that you haven't had in your academic or whether in work experience or in personal life. This is one. Number two, and this is for everyone. Just try to dress a formal code. Just look formal. During the interview, it's going to be taking place inside the UK embassy, the UK embassies and consulate. So it would be more appropriate to show up with formal clothes. And when you speak, try not to speak too fast, nor too slow. Speak on a medium pace, and a pace that makes your words more understandable. And that show that you are more confident of what you are saying. Talking fast means that you are stressed. You don't want to show them that you are stressed. And talking slow means that will make them feel sleepy. So try to talk on a voice, on a pitch of voice that is neither high nor low, in the middle, and try to speak neither fast nor slow, but in a middle pace. So a middle pace and a middle pitch of voice. And the choice of your words, they should be formal, and try not to think during the interview what are the formal words that I should use. Be authentic, yes. Just try to sound more formal as you appear to the interview. Thank you so much for your question, and that was of course for everyone. I'm having a question in the chat box from Dr. Hovis again. It states, how do you begin your interview? It's very important. So on the first question, tell us about yourself. Where do you start? Where do you start with what you are doing currently, or you do end with that? Since the question is so broad, where do I start and stop? So Dr. Hovis is asking about, tell me about yourself question. So take it this way. If someone on the street has that you met on the street or the underground, in the bus, etc., and try to ask you, tell me about yourself, someone who wanted to get to know you, you will state your name, of course, and you will state, this is the first, state your name, and then state your academic degree, what you are studying or what you have been studying. And of course, you have been studying in the past, so you are going to use the past tense. Also state your work experience or what you are working currently, and then talk briefly about your hobbies or goals. So that's it. Take it this way: your name, your academic background, your work background, your hobbies and goals. That's it. That's how to answer your question. You may also mention where do you live, just to state that if you are living in a small village as a distant place, you can state that that didn't hinder you from getting distinguished among your colleagues at school, etc. So just mention those relevant things with your questions. Sorry, while answering your tell me about yourself question. Thank you so much. Any other question? All right, so thank you for attending this Zoom meeting. I was happy to see you. Some of you are new, some of you attended my previous sessions already. I wish you every success in your Chevening Chevening interview. Just be authentic, be real, talk about things that are more relevant with your application. And when answering your questions concerning leadership and networking, just use the STAR technique, the one that I explained on my further session. The STAR technique means situation, task, action, and results. Take a situation, state your task, and then what action you have taken, and then what are the results. This is the way you should mention the questions. You can find the detailed answer in my previous Zoom session with Dr. Hanan and Ila. Thank you so much for attending the Zoom session, and I wish you every success. Thank you and bye-bye. Have a good day.